We are Lagos Talks 91.3. Let's talk.
First, I like to refer to myself as government property, as I have turned in the last few years. Like you said, I was born and raised in Lagos. I'm a student. I had my diplomas at the Moshood Abiola Polytechnic before I went on to the Lagos State University, although I'm not currently at the Lagos State University. I'm currently studying public health. And yes, like you said, I direct project at Connect Hub NG. We do a lot of things around documentation of state violence and police brutality. We also connect people, just like the name says, to help. When you need help regarding police brutality, Nigeria police just extort me. They collected 200,000, 300,000, the whatnot. We also document a lot of extrajudicial killings that has been happening in the country. It's not a task, but someone has to do the documentation. I do a lot of things around, as a Nigerian babe now, you can't be stuck in one place. You have to do a lot of things. So I'm an hustler. I do a lot of things at the same time, but that's just like a brief summary of what I do. Thank you.
I mean, you're a young person, and I've read your profile. You have your own organization. You also came out to say a number of things. You came out to speak and to advocate when it was time for people to say we want an end to police brutality. How did it all start? Yes.
Well, you can't describe oppressions to a Nigerian, because even though they don't know the literal definition of what that means, they can give example. So as a Nigerian and as a lady, I'd always like to say that I grew up, witnessing oppression. I mean, I in the neighborhood I grew up, it's not strange for you to wake up and see a dead body on the street and, just there for nothing. Yeah. If you ask around, maybe a police officer shot a person, or there were some street clashes or fights or something. It's not strange to see people not having anything to eat, to drink. At the end of the day, I'm not a stranger to oppression, and I'm not a stranger to police brutality. So it didn't really come as a surprise or shock to my family, because they know that I wouldn't keep quiet when I see these things. Because when you come from that sort of background, right, where you've seen things face to face, and you have not always been a quiet person, so it didn't come as a surprise to my family to see me, having to advocate for a better society in general, where for me, should be a society where the common man can get justice irrespective of their status in the society. You don't have to know somebody before you can, get justice. Trust me, I've seen a lot of injustices happen.
Interesting. So you've always been vocal, right? From your family, as a youngster, you've always been vocal.
Let's just say I've always been a coconut head. So
I see. And for you in the EndSARS protests, the first time I saw you on TV, because I wasn't in Lagos, I was in Port Harcourt. But for you guys in Lagos, you were the ones who started it all. At what point did you say, hey, I can be a voice for this particular one? Hey, I can actually galvanize people. I saw you holding a booklet, and I think we were writing some things down. That was the first time I saw you on TV. I think it was outside Alausa, if I'm not mistaken. But at what point did you say, hey, I think I can just speak for these people?
Well, I think that for me, it's always been about, trying to use a platform to create change in the way you are. You don't have to be a celebrity or an influencer per se before you can enact change. And if I can trace back, how it started, I think that this lady Adaobi was killed in 2019 by the Nigerian police, and her boyfriend was shot as well. I think that happened in Ajegunle or something. Yes, right, in Lagos. And that was one of the few incidences that first brought my attention to the extreme how can I say it? I don't know how police brutality has become endemic in our society, right? It's not as if you don't see it on the streets of your own, where you stay, but then now you're now on social media and you see that it's not even just happening in one location, it's happening everywhere. And you as a lady, you're not even safe as a female. So that mentality that police brutality always happens to young men or Nigerian male in general, it's a farce, you know. So
boys, tattoos and boys only.
Exactly. So I can also trace back to, you know, when Tina Ezekwe was killed in Yanawuru as well. She was a 16-year-old girl, you know, about to write her WAEC exams. And that was also, you know, on social media, and a lot of people attention got drawn to it. And I said to myself, I could be Tina, you know, just standing by the roadside, bus stop, anything. And police stray bullet to just come and meet me where I am. I mean, it was a fact that I didn't want to become a victim, right? I didn't want to become that next hashtag justice for Rinu, because she has just been killed by some errant police officer somewhere. And it was also, I think that one incident was that I always like to share was walking with my younger brother in the neighborhood. And there was this guy that was just being harassed by police. And I just like, but this guy did not do anything. What's going on? And the people around were like, oh, you keep quiet, you know, you're a woman, so just keep quiet and not say anything. I'm like, everybody needs to add their voice. It's not just the males or people that can speak in this society. Everybody needs to add their voice to stop this injustice. So I said to myself, like I started, I don't need to be a celebrity or an influencer. I mean, with a small platform I have, I think I can do something. So when Tina was killed, you know, it became sort of more of a personal issue for me, because if it's not me, it could be my younger ones, right? So I said, we're doing something about it. And people thought I was joking. Oh, this was back in June 2020, or yeah, Tina was killed in May. June 2020, I said to my friends, you know, are you guys going to organize a protest or something? I said, yeah, let's do it. We organized a protest then as well. We went to the state command in Ikeja, Lagos State Police Command in Ikeja.
In June 2020.
And that sort of formed my impression regarding what the reactions of the police, because we went there and then, you know, when there were petitions, placard, this is what we wanted to stop. We're barely less than 20, I guess. And then their reaction was sort of nonchalant, right? Like, you people come here, you make noise, you go back home. Maybe Nigeria, you make your noise and yeah, give us your letter and go back home, and nothing was gonna change. From some of my impressions then to that, these guys never meant for anything to change. It's just always been, and then they've taken it as normal. But then obviously for young people aspiring to be great in technology, business, name what is it, we can definitely not afford to go on like this. You can't afford to be the next hashtag. I can't afford to be the next hashtag.
Fantastic. So for those who are listening, I mean, you didn't just jump on the protests that became popular. You were actually doing something in your own way before then, and that's really heartwarming to know. Where were you? And I know you've been asked this question a ton of times. What happened on the 20th of October 2020? Where were you? And how was it for you in that period? Because you know that not a few people had to go under, had to hide, had to go undercover, a lot of things, you know. How was it for you at that time, that period?
Well, I think that it's a sort of difficult discussion, because the protest wasn't something that Rinu or some other popular names that you now know just engaged in for like a day or two. It was something that, if I could start with the fact that I wasn't, you know, doing it alongside. It's not just even about doing it for because you wanted to survive, or doing it because you wanted to escape police brutality, or doing it because you didn't want to be part of the numbers out there that keeps increasing every day. But then, because we did it alongside millions, you know, hundreds of thousands of young Nigerians like us made the difference. It's not just you standing, it's you standing with someone you don't know, but it's a Nigerian youth as well, and then they wanted an end to police brutality. And that sort of made the difference, seeing the passion, the hope on people's faces, the energy, the money people put into the protest, just to say that they didn't want to, die. We definitely we just want an end to police brutality, and the root cause, which is bad governance, you guys should just end it. It was nothing more than that. And seeing repression in the worst form possible as a young Nigerian was, I can just describe it as brutal. And the repression didn't start on the 28th of October 2020. It's important that people know that it started right from the 8th of October 2020, where the police officers, under the command of the then CP of Lagos, Commissioner of Police Odumosu, tried to attack us at the Lagos State House for Assembly on the night of October 2020. And I think that was one of the first instances that sort of opened my eyes to how police brutality can go from 50 to 1,000 in such a few seconds. We're just protesting, right? And then you could see this battalion of officers come there to come and dislodge you, and they're literally pointing guns at you. And there was this realization that came to me as a young Nigerian that I could die here. And I'm not just dying, I'm dying at the hands of people that are supposed to protect me. People that are supposed to be my security. They're the ones trying to kill me. And that was where it started from. And I think that was one of the catalysts that blew up the protest in the first place, because it was online. Some of us that could go online to tell people this was happening. The lights were switched off around the Lagos State House of Assembly as well, just like on the 20th of October 2020. And I think the people couldn't just stand the fact that, these young people are just there trying to protest against police brutality, and you people are still trying to shoot them. You still want to kill them. You still want to harass them just for saying stop killing us. And then the next day, Friday, the 9th of October, the protest blew up. And from there, the police violence that started happening escalated. The Nigerian police, in conjunction with the Nigerian government, escalated the protest, from trying to arresting people to first Monday of that October 2020, where people were shot in Surulere. I think a police officer was killed by police officers because they were trying to shoot at protesters, and then a stray bullet went to meet one of their own. It's when you think about it, it's just devastating that you are trying to shoot protesters, but then by some accident, the police bullet went to meet a police officer and killed the police officer.
And the
right there.
initial news
was
protesters who shot him. It wasn't true.
Yes. And when you start to now trace this conversation, I'm glad that we stumbled on this part of the conversation, to the Nigerian government narrative that the protesters started violence, it becomes, in a sort of weird way, interesting when you think of the fact that the police started shooting, and then they shot at their own, and then they say, protesters killed police officers, but it was police officers that were killing one of their own in the bid of shooting at protesters and trying to scare them away. And a protester was shot as well. Kofi was protesting at Alausa on Monday when a protester at Surulere, and was shot in the protest, someone I know. And it started escalating, from there to Jimo Isiak being killed in your state, and a lot of protesters being harassed in Abuja, a lot of protesters being killed, shot at in Lagos, to hoodlums coming to the protest ground. I think that it was not something that we expected, but it should be in our consciousness or subconsciousness that something drastic was coming, since every tactic, to dislodge these protesters from the streets wasn't working. Even when they sent hoodlums to with dangerous weapons to attack protesters, that wasn't even working. So what next? We were thinking, what next this is the Nigerian government going to do? But I don't think that in our passion, in our hopes, in our innocence, that we expected that this very same people that are supposed to protect us would be the ones that would collaborate in switching off the lights and coming to shoot at young people that were just waving flags.
Really sad.
So I think that if I could describe my reaction, I was on the process ground as usual that day, but if I could describe, I don't think that there's an English word to use to describe what I still think about that same very day, because it was a mixture of disappointment. It was a mixture of, hope being dashed. It was also mixed with the fact that your state, your country, that you have, as a young person, always had hope, saying that everything was going to get better one day, and we're finally going to live in peace and harmony. There was this veil that was just sticking off your eyes, that the state is never meant to protect you. Even as a common man or as a young person, the state was designed to protect the 1% of the 1%. The state was designed to protect the interest of the politicians.
For those who are listening, you're still on to the late edition right here on Lagos Talks 91.3. We have a guest. She's someone you'd love to listen to, and I'm sure you're enjoying listening to her. She is a human rights advocate, influencer, and a community organizer focused primarily on issues of equity, justice, humanity, and community advancement. She was one of the leading, and still is one of the leading voices in the EndSARS movement in Lagos and indeed in Nigeria. She is Rinu Oduala, aka Savvy Rinu. And we're talking about the power of protest in a democracy right here on the late edition Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Kofi Bartels. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation with your questions and contributions, please feel free to call 080-9234-5913, 080-9234-5913. You can also call 080-9191-3913, 080-9191-3913. We have 080-9222-0913, 080-9222-0913. And landlines include 01515-0913 and 01515-1913. It's still the late edition, talking about the power of protest in a democracy, indeed in Nigerian context. Protests in Nigeria as a medium of expression, like you've just heard from Rinu, in recent times has been discouraged by the government. And we're talking about government at all levels. With the recent experience of EndSARS movement, the protests still have power in Nigeria. We have a caller on the line. Let's take this one. I hope you can hear them, and then you respond later. Hello, good evening to you. What's your name?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Kofi.
Rinu, can you hear him?
I did you from Nigeria.
Okay. Please hold on. Can you hear? Okay, fantastic. You have 1 minute. Please go on.
Okay, please. I just want Rinu to address this issue. I passed through the Koyi Bridge today. I don't know. Maybe there's another protest about to happen. I don't know. I don't pray for it because of what I was during the last year. I think it was shown, which everybody can confirm, that there is going to be a certain of toll on the 1st of April. And the most annoying part is the same youths that were killed at this Lekki Tollgate, Koyi Bridge, are also the same youths they were using to advertise this tollgate that wants to commence. So I don't know how we are going to pay. And as they normally say, dear, by from this Koyi Bridge now, I believe they are also planning this Lekki, which I don't think it should happen for all the lives that was lost during EndSARS period. So please, and I just want to make a joke, please, the last time you commented about Putin, I beg you, you shouldn't let us get involved in that. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, God bless you, Mr. Kofi.
All right, my brother, thank you very much. Interesting. And Rinu, this is really an issue of today. I'm sure you've been following the comments online because you're very active there. You're an influencer. So over to you.
Well, on this particular topic, I think that my stance has always remained clear, even after I left the Lagos State Judicial Panel, that I don't think that toll gate should be opened in any context. And some of those contexts include the fact that, and I think that this will be delving into the, the conversation about what happened at the panel's report, the implementation of that report. What about justice? These are the questions that we should be asking ourselves. Even if the toll gate will be reopened, I mean, they want to reopen the toll gate on April 1st, which is obviously April Fool's Day. And it's sort of pointing at how the Nigerian government, or the Lagos state government in particular, thinks that negotiations are foolish. And like the question that the person asked, there has been no justice that has been gotten for people that have been killed at that place. The Lagos state government has consistently, tried to, how would I put it, gaslight, people into thinking that nothing happened at that place. I mean, even the panel's report was like, it was. I don't want to use this word on television, but then they kept on, there were so many parts that they made sure that panel report was in some sort of way that tried to rubbish the panel's report. I mean, that's like the closest word I can look forward to what I wanted to say. It was clearly rubbished. And so answering these questions, in what context do they want to open the toll gate? Have they gotten justice for the people that were killed at that place? As the Lagos state government implemented the panel's recommendations, or they managed to throw away so many vital parts that they didn't like, or they didn't ascribe to. I mean, you set up a panel by yourself, and then you come back and say that the panel is lying. The same panel that you set up by yourself to investigate into the incidences of the Lekki toll gate. Now you come back to say, oh, the panel is lying. The same panel you set up yourself. These are questions that citizens, should be asking. When would justice finally matter in the Nigerian society? When would we say, oh, yes, we've gotten justice for those that have been lost at that place? And the blood of the people that were killed at that place by the Nigerian government, in collaboration with the Nigerian military, the Nigerian police, and the Lagos state government, is still crying out. So for me, my stance, like I said, has always remained clear on that toll gate, that it should never be open in any regard if the Lagos state government consistently still pretends like nothing happened at that place, which we all clearly know that something happened at that place. So this is just like my short answer to that question. I've just stated my stance. I've stated the context in which they think they want to open the Lekki toll gate. And to cap it off, I think that it's up to the Nigerian citizenry. It's not up to Rinu alone. It's up to Lagos state indigents as well to think for themselves that should that toll gate be reopened in the context of everything that has happened. That's what I will say on that matter for now.
Okay, very interesting. You talked about the EndSARS panel, the judicial panel of inquiry set up by the Lagos state government itself. And of course, I'm sure you've been asked this question so many times, but permits us to ask you again. What happened? What led to your withdrawal? What the circumstances? The things that maybe you could not even say to the press at the time that made you step aside, withdraw from the panel?
Well, for me, I think that my stance, as I should be clear again, partial justice is never enough, for what Nigerians have gone through, and it's important to say, are still going through in the hands of police brutality and state violence. If you ask thousands of the people that are listening tonight, if they've experienced police brutality in the last 1 week, I'm sure at least 0.1, because I don't want to exaggerate, would say that yes, they've come across someone that has extorted them, or a police officer that has extorted them, or someone somewhere has been extrajudicially killed, or something like that. So I left because partial justice is not enough. I mean, it's wonderful that people were getting paid, no matter how small the amount, for whatever they've gone through in the hands of police brutality, but that's not enough. It's not enough to compensate people. What about justice? What's happening to the police officers that have led them into these circumstances in the first place? The police officer that has killed someone's child, killed someone's wife, extorted several thousands of naira from somebody. What's happening to these people? Why don't we it's like we're treating a part of the problem while leaving the major case. That there's no peace without justice. And that panel, like many of the panels across the states that managed to set up one, was supposed to restore peace, not just peace, bridge that gap between the people and the government. Let us understand or sort of have a tentative hope that our government has finally listened to us. But what's the essence of paying victims when the killers, the extorters, the criminals in police uniforms are still out there in our police force, smiling and knowing that nothing is going to ever happen? I'd just like to remind you of this particular phrase of the Nigerian police that they will say, "I'll kill you and nothing will happen." So why should we still have these people that are killing us and nothing is happening in our police force? When is the police force ever going to become a thing of pride for the Nigerian people? I mean, and then particularly, it was really about, it was also about the reopening of the handing over of the Lekki toll gate. I mean, this was a crime scene, and for me, it's still a crime scene, by the way. And right in the middle of investigations, why are we handing over this place, to the Lagos state government to do whatever they say they want to do? They are yet to agree to the fact that they, in collaboration with the Nigerian military and the police, shot at people at that place, switched off the lights, tampered with the camera, a lot of things that if we begin to go into, I mean, the white paper clearly stated all of that. And I think that, I mean, not the white paper, the judicial panel reports clearly stated all of that. And then the Lagos State comes out with a white paper. And I like to refer to that white paper as a white paper with black content, and which cannot even alter the report of the judicial panel, because the Lagos State government is culpable in the crimes that have been committed during the EndSARS protest. But then we don't expect them to still indict themselves. Anyway, for I think the panel went on for a year, and then we were waiting for the panel's recommendation. People spent time, people spent energy on that place, and then they came, like I said earlier, to turn around and rubbish these people's work as assumptions and speculation. So you can almost say that I was justified in leaving the panel. It was as if I saw it coming. And for me also, I stated the fact that we don't need apologies. What we need is justice. The people, the police officers who have committed mass atrocities against the young Nigerians have to be brought to book. Names have been called, and they're not ghosts. They should be prosecuted. If the Nigerian government has anything left in them, then they should do right by the people. While we're close to 100 young protesters, because the Lagos State Chief Pathologist submitted a report saying that I think a total of 99 bodies were recovered all over Lagos State from the 19th to the 24th of October. So while we are close to 100 young protesters, even those that were not protesting, maybe innocent, murdered all over Lagos on the 20th of October 2020. When there is justice in the land, there's bound to be peace. So what is needed, for me, is not mostly the compensation, but then justice. There's no healing or peace without justice. And it's important to mention this as well. While the panel was going on, we are claiming to restitute for probably on behalf of the people, on behalf of the government, for the people from the government. There are many protesters in prison for over a year. It's going to 2 years now that we're protesting. They are still in prison, but the Lagos State government has kept many innocent protesters, young people in prison, without any cases.
Yeah, please hold the thought. Let's just put this caller through. I'll come back to that all important point you're making. Hello, good evening to you. What's your name, please?
Hello, good evening. It's Ayo Deji calling back.
All right, Ayo Deji. Rinu, please, can you hear him? Okay, Ayo Deji, go on.
Yeah. You see, all what Rinu has been addressing, I really appreciate all what she has been doing and the contributions she has been contributing to the development of this our nation. But you see, I don't think even the fight we youth are fighting for all these policemen, there's no result on it. As you used to say, that's what I'm saying. It's like we youth are even wasting our time. Oh, I shouldn't tell when we are not even wasting our time. This government, we don't want the results to give us what is more encouraging. Because for example, let me just deviate a little bit. Imagine what happens to this girl that was killed inside the house. The parents said he went to the back and they were rubbish that they should go and bring the police reports. That one aside, which they believe it won't be easier to get. See the new person that testify again that the guy really assaulted inside the bus. The lady said she went to the police station. How many times? They were rubbish. He didn't attend to her. And she is now right about what she is saying. If you go to the police station to lodge a complaint, before you even lodge that complaint, you have been crucified on it. So I don't think this nation is going, because it's like we are sitting on a time bomb, Mr. Kofi. We are sitting on a time bomb. And this issue, I don't think it's something we should be handling with levity. Because our leaders, these politicians, they didn't mean well for us in this country.
Okay.
In any one way or the other. So and I even had the news that all the promises they made during the EndSARS to check and balance the salary of the policemen. I had the news, was it not since last week or only this week, that the salary was not changed. The salary still remained the same.
Okay.
So you can see the way, or like example.
So finally.
This our
yes. In one.
What I'm trying to say is, I really appreciate. I know it's not a good result, but from my own perspective, I think for us to be free from all these politicians, the way they are extorting us, siphoning us, for the better of this country, nothing we really need. This country to be better really require one, which is blood. And we are not ready to share blood. And for this country, to the nation to be better, it must happen, whether we like it or not. Because we can't continue like this.
Okay.
One way or the other, different story from the other one. Policemen, they are not near. You can't even closer to them. That's not the same. Everything, every circle of this country.
All right.
So please, I don't know if there is anything Rinu can even do. The way he did the last time, we really appreciate, and she can see how you turn out. But I don't think it won't be like inciting any kind of violence or any kind of.
What's your point in a nutshell? Just summarize what you're saying.
My point is, if it's possible, another protest to happen. I don't mind, because the way this country is going, it's unbearable. It's unbearable. See the price of this. I'm still with you, Mr. Kofi. Well done.
Thank you very much. Okay, really, we'll come to that in a bit. But interesting here, a question or point is raised. I'm sure you've been asked this before. But you were making a point about the white paper and then how it was rubbished, and then you moved on to talk about the very, very important issue of those who are still languishing in jail today without even being taken to court. Let's just take us through that before we move to another thing.
Many are actually still in prison, but then a majority of them have been charged on bogus charges. Charges like you were disrupting the peace of Lagos, you were constituting something, this frivolous charges that the state government, because it's not just Lagos state government, there are protesters in all your states, there are ones in Ondo states, I think there are ones in Abuja as well. There are even some that we don't know that they are in those prisons. Only that the ones I'm mentioning are those that we know. I think over 300 EndSARS protesters are in Lagos state prisons, by the way, but they're on bogus charges. So this also points to the fact that, or to how Nigerian government has consistently tried to repress the EndSARS movement. And one question I like to ask for the leaders that are listening what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of ending police brutality? And I also like to, always say that I think the police brutality is sort of like a means to an end for the Nigerian government. And I say this, confidently, that Nigerians, is happening to all of us. And then our leaders are in an extensive way, elaborate collaboration to cover up the killings of citizens, to to have no intentions. The Nigerian state has no intentions of ending police brutality. And I like to say the reason is because they benefit from the indignity, they benefit from our humiliation, they benefit from our suppression, they benefit from our oppression. They are protecting their own political interests because clearly, let's answer this question to ourselves. If they end police brutality today, who will help them oppress the citizens? If they end police brutality, who will help them cause voter apathy with all this shooting around? If they end police brutality, how will they keep their chokehold of oppression and indignity over Nigerian citizens? Like I said, the state government have kept many innocent protesters, young people, in prison without having any case against them. So with what is currently happening, and yeah, there are a lot of organizations, like EIE, SERAF, Connect Hub NG, Edford Foundation, Hope Against BAST that are doing, a lot of the work in getting these people out. But there's a lot of frustrations as well on the part of the state government to keep these people in prison. It's just like they're being kept there as a scapegoat, just as a reminder to other people that don't you dare to protest. So and then with the protests that have happened after the EndSARS protests, that the police have been there consistently to repress protesters. In a democracy, when you're supposedly supposed to have freedom of expression and you're supposed to have police officers that are protecting you, they had the ones shooting at you. I think a young lady was also killed, Zichimoke, late last year as well. I mean, this was just a trader that was walking by, and then she was shot by a police officer trying to repress a protest. And you could see the incidents that happened, I think it's in February last year as well, where the celebrity Mr. Macaroni alongside other protesters were dehumanized. And it was on camera. We can see the video all over social media. So I ask, with what is currently happening, do you think that our policymakers, do you think that our leaders are focused on ending police brutality?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? You talked about the role of the former commissioner of police in Lagos State, the immediate past one, CP Hakeem Odumosu. Before he left, he was honored by the Lagos State House of Assembly. How did that make you feel? What are your thoughts on that? That the Lagos State House Assembly, because you just said, he galvanized and moved his men to attack protesters, and you saw firsthand what police brutality of the highest level can be, and the role he played in the EndSARS protests and what happened at Lekki. He was honored by the Legislative House of the People of Lagos State. These are people who are meant to represent Lagosians, you and I, those who pay their taxes in Lagos State or are indigents of Lagos State. And what are your thoughts on stuff like that?
Thank you very much for this question. And it's nice that we're going into this part of the conversation. You see, the Nigerian state has a trend. They are used to rewarding those who consistently, or those who have helped in advancing their interest. Remember what I talked about, the interest of the Nigerian state of protecting their political interest. So it's not that comes at no shock or as no surprise to Nigerians that the killers of our dreams, the killers of our young ones, have been honored. And a very popular example that we know of recently is the case of Abba Kyari. I mean, this was a man that was honored by State House of Assemblies, the media, a lot of organizations for being a super cop. Now a super cop turned into a tailor. Then he changed profession to a pharmacist. There's no profession. I don't think that man has changed. This same man that has been honored by so many has stand out, as if many didn't know before. It's not as if people didn't know before, because this man has cases of extrajudicial killings, and I'm talking about Abba Kyari in the first place, cases of extortion, cases of torture, cases of harassment that has been instituted against him by the Nigerian citizens. In fact, when I was on the judicial panel, there were cases against Abba Kyari, the same man that has been linked to a major fraud case and drug case again. There were cases of him at the judicial panel as well. And when people see, when the learned counsel, they see the case, They are aware. They know, oh, this is Abba Kyari again. This Abba Kyari case. It's just like he was protected by some people and nobody could touch him. In fact, he will flagrantly ignore court cases. He doesn't come to court cases, just sends his lawyer to court because they know that nothing would happen. And now see what, if the Nigerian, it's important to point out that the Nigerian state wasn't the one that exposed Abba Kyari in the first place. It was, police officers of another nation that said this man has been linked to something. If they don't come out, if they did not come out to say it, the Nigerian state would have kept honoring this man. In fact, maybe he would have become the next Inspector General of Police. So what am I saying in essence is that the Nigerian state is fond of rewarding the killers of our dreams. They don't, and this is part of the reasons why even people are asking for a disintegration. This is why there's a lot of chaos in the place. Because like I said, when there is no justice, there can be no peace in the land. I mean, the path to peace must first be laced with justice flowers. You cannot just say, oh, we want peace in the land. What about justice? What about the people that have died? What about the people that have been extorted? What about the people that their lives have been destroyed as a result of these people? And that's what I said from the start, why I left the panel in the first place, because partial justice it's not enough. We cannot be rewarding the people that have led to the deaths of so many disappearance and forced disappearance of so many. There's so many young people that are missing in Nigeria today that have been killed off by the Nigerian police, and you will never see them again. Or maybe if you see them, it could occur in the case of the Akuzu River that happened. What about James Iwafo, the guy that killed so many people in Anambra State? Is he in court today? Has he been prosecuted? He's walking freely as a free man, despite overwhelming evidence against this person. So when you ask me the question about the former commissioner of police of Lagos State, I'm not surprised, because why? The Nigerian government, or the Nigerian state rather, is fond of rewarding the killers of the dreams of Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Interesting, very interesting one. Then we have a next listener on the line. Good evening to you. What's your name, please?
Good evening.
Yes, welcome.
Good evening.
Yes, who do we have on the line?
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. What's your name?
I'm Diwali.
All right, Diwali, where are you listening to us from, please?
I'm from Zulere.
Okay. All right, Rinu, can you hear him?
Hello?
Okay, fantastic. Please go on.
Okay, I have a very straight question and observation. My question is this. About what has been discussed so far. I really appreciate your energy, your energy and everything around making things work for Nigerians and making youth to see the betterment and the need for them to challenge the government to do better things for them. But my concern about this thing is that the energy we youth we are putting in protesting, challenging the government, and trying to make our voice being heard via various media platforms. If you are doing much of this in promoting the way we participate in electoral activities as well, like election and other activities that surround let's say the political party or something like that, I think it will give us more health in political space than giving these people more chance to be continue to winning us and seeing that position as like hereditary, because they are seeing it that even if you shout till tomorrow, we are still coming back next after the election, we still continue what we have been doing. But if you can have that energy, the same energy we put then during the EndSARS, we put the same energy into the election and something like that, I believe something will change. We can't actually have the result at once. It may be gradual, it will come gradually, maybe from local government to House of Assemblies and House of Rep, before it gets to the stage where you can challenge for the governorship position and to other senator and presidential position as well. But all this energy on what's it called, protest all the time, I don't think it will give us the results we want if we don't try to channel the same energy towards the right way to take these people out of the office, which is the power of vote of election.
Thank you. Very interesting question there, Rinu. So he's talking about, of course, alternatives, making it work, ensuring that the system is changed, not just asking the people to change it. Like you said, you can't expect the Lagos State government, who was an actor, a state actor in the EndSARS, in the Lekki Inns massacre, to to judge itself. So he's talking about going down to 2023 and making sure that there's true change through the ballot box, not just through protests. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. But then I slightly disagree when they say that, we don't have to protest, we should do this. In a democracy, there's several parts of participation, and you cannot say one is higher than the other. Everything has to be balanced. It's just like saying, oh, let's just vote, and then when something bad happens, let's wait for the next 4 years before we can do anything, right? Protest, election, participating in elections, recalling lawmakers. There's a lot of things that citizens can do, and one does not override the other. One does not disturb the other. One does not disturb the other. You can use your vote as a means of protest. It's still protesting. If you look at what is happening today, let's take for the instance students in Nigeria that their education have currently been battered by the incessant ASU strikes. They can use their votes as a form of protest to say, okay, the people that have contributed in making sure that our education is constantly derailed, in making sure that we have to spend the more than required number of years before we can complete our Bachelor of Education, Masters, whatnot, they are punished with our votes. That is also a form of protest. The fact that you come together to organize yourself, to have a sit-in somewhere, to block the National House of Assembly. I think that the Nigerian women are doing something in Abuja regarding the passage of bills that currently happened. I think was it last month or early this month as well. That's also another form of participating in a democracy. It's not, one is not bigger than the other, one is not lesser than the other. And protests, comes in several ways. It's about making your opinions, yes. It's about influencing public opinions. It's about protests can also be an attempt to enact change yourself. And protest has always been a part and parcel of the Nigerian system. Even way before the Nigerian got the independence in 1960, during the colonial eras, people have always been protesting. If you start from the Aba women protest to the Abeokuta women riot, Ali must go, to June 12 protests, bring back our girls, occupy Nigeria, open NAS, not too young to run, say no to NIPOS bill. People have always been protesting. And for me, I definitely agree with you when you talk about the fact when you bring in the part of repression, the repression works. And no matter how brave protesters may be, a state has more capacity, more power to inflict cost more than ordinary protesters can withstand them. Just like the EndSARS protest, where young Nigerians came out to protest against police brutality and they were met with bullets. The Nigerian state or Nigerian government will try to persuade citizens that, we are listening to the protesters. Have we not set up panels of inquiry? Have we not announced that SARS is being disbanded? But then simultaneously, they are using their power to repress, to intimidate activists, to throw people in jail, to shoot at protesters, to use DSS to harass people and all of that. So I agree with you when you say that people should also, that's where I will come in, but they should also realize that protesting is not the only way to participate in a democracy. Along with protesting, you can also vote. That's even one of your fundamental citizen responsibilities. It's a civil duty for you. It's not a choice. Voting is not, I'm going to vote this year and I'm not going to vote next year. No, it is a compulsory civic duty. As long as you are a citizen of a country, using the road, using the lights, using water, all of the things I can continue to mention, then you should realize that you need to be responsible enough, no matter what your political affiliation may be, to vote. I don't know if I clearly got my point across there. Okay. It's not, one is not overriding the other. You're voting, you're protesting, you're trying to influence a bill. It's all part of participation in a democracy.
It's almost like having only one thing. Variety is a spice of life. And in a democracy, that's a very brilliant way to put it. In democracy, you have different parts of that system. It's like having one church. If you have only one church, it will be different churches cater to different people, to different communities and interests and all that. Interesting way to put it. There's a lot to ask you. We've spent the first part of this conversation, talking about the EndSARS protest, but we want to look to the future. In Nigeria, of course, protests in Nigeria as a medium of expression have in recent times been discouraged by government, and I'm talking about government at different levels. And with the recent experience of the EndSARS movement, do protests still have power in Nigeria? I mean, when I say power, I mean power to bring about changes, power to hold government accountable. Are people afraid to embark on peaceful protests? And if you're listening right now, what issues would you like to protest about? We have Rinu Oduala as our guest tonight on the late edition. Of course, you've given us so eloquently, the history to show that Nigerians have been involved in protests even before independence. You mentioned the popular Ali Must Go protests and all that. It was interesting to know that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the people who led that Ali Must Go protest later became a minister, and was trying to clamp down on protesting doctors. I have to check my history well. But looking at the recent times, government has been clamping down on protests. Not just the federal government, talking about even state governments, opposition voices, the voices of dissent, let me call it, are being silenced. With what happened after EndSARS, I mean, everybody has run back to their homes. Nobody is shouting EndSARS again. Even for the EndSARS anniversary, I mean, I watched on TV from Port Harcourt, people who did a drive-by. I was like, what is this? You sat in your car and you just drove by. Is the tool of expression called protest really that powerful in Nigeria now?
I think that it's a tough one if we don't consider the aspect of repression. And let me tell like a story, just not to digress, but then earlier this week, someone called me. This is a middle-class Nigerian like Kofi Bartels, you're middle class, you guys have money. And I know you want to say something.
Compliment.
So, and then the person said, there's a lot of things that has gone wrong. There's no lights, there's no fuel. If you see the traffic in Lagos now, it's extra, triple times what it usually used to be. There's a lot of inflation. People are suffering. There's no food. The prices have skyrocketed. People are at home. A lot of people are angry. Why are people not coming out? Why are people not protesting? Are people not supposed to realize that this is the height of? I mean, I think that is it yesterday that the national grid, power grid collapsed as well, and all of that.
Yeah, Monday.
Why are people not talking? Why are people not talking? I said, what happened to middle-class Nigerians? Why are you people not carrying placards? Said, well, middle-class Nigerians, when they went to protest, they were shot at. So what about ordinary people on the streets? Why are they not doing anything? I said, okay, what if you people were shot at? The ordinary people on the streets, it's not as if they don't want to talk. It's not as if they don't know how to organize themselves, even if middle-class people think, oh, these people are uneducated or anything. But they know that if they come out to protest, they're going to get killed. They don't mind getting killed. That's the irony. But if they get killed, nobody's going to say anything. You're just going to move on. Middle-class people like us, we're just going to say, well, they just got killed. If it's a middle-class person or people that got killed, there'll be uproar. Even if there's not going to be justice, people are still going to speak out. But if the ordinary man, the son of the common man on the streets, dies, Nigerians are going to move on. And then they know, and they think that it's better to just die in my house drinking Gary than to just go out on protest. And then nobody's going to say anything about it. Why? Because I'm the common man. It is time that the Nigerian working class, the Nigerian middle class begins to realize that they are silent regarding many things that are happening in the country currently, because we are privileged, because you have money to buy some things, because, yeah, where I can cope with it, full of 500 naira, I'll buy it, my salary So Kofi's salary can still cover 500 naira per liter fuel and all of that. So you keep quiet. You adjust, like the popular musician Fela will say, you're suffering, but you're still smiling because you can manage. You're not thinking about the ordinary man on the streets that cannot manage. You're not going to speak out for the ordinary man on the street that cannot manage. You're adjusting. I think it's Sheon Kuti that will say that the middle class are part of the problem. We're a major part of the problem because we think that if we can adjust the situation and other people can also adjust, not realizing the fact that there are so many people that cannot bear what is happening. There's so many people that are dying. So is protest still powerful? Yes, it's very much powerful. If protests are not powerful, then the Nigerian state will not be trying its possible best to repress any protest that is going to be happening. Just do a flyer now and put it out there and say people should come to Ojota. The very next morning, you will see police officers there. The police officers that have been missing in action when people are getting robbed in traffic, that are busy extorting people, extrajudicially killing people, you will see them in a show. They call it show of force, but I call it show of shame. Right there, trying to prevent people from protesting. So would you say that protests are not still powerful in that regard? They understand the power of the people in a united voice. And that is why the Nigerian state or our politicians have constantly tried to divide us along religious lines, along ethnic lines. And that's why they were shocked that didn't work for the EndSARS movement, because I didn't care what your religion was. All I cared was that the fact you wanted police brutality to end and wanted to stand on the street together. Muslims were praying and Christians, were around them, trying to guard whatever, so that there will be no distraction or disruption on the road during the EndSARS movement. And I think that shook. I don't think that the effect of the EndSARS movement has barely gone, because they are still shaking. They're still trying to repress protesters. They're still sending trolls after popular activist voice to try to discredit them. People are still in prison. Protests work. But then sadly, repression works as well. Like I said earlier, no matter how brave people are, a state has a capacity to inflict cost more than we can bear. And if we say, the protests still have power, it's about people coming together to collectively talk, express our opinions. It's about influencing public opinions. It's about, trying to draw attention, trying to gain a audience, trying to connect with more people that feel passionate about the issue, to speak truth to power and to bear witness. Does the Nigerian government want that? No. The entire purpose, or the main purpose rather, of protest is to demand change. So I'm asking you a quick question, Kofi. Sorry, I'm being the interviewer now. Do you think that this current government wants change despite everything that Nigerians have seen? However, I think that is a popular is activists that said something, that there may be times where we are powerless to prevent injustice, but there must never be a time that we fail to protest. Protests work. We've challenged social issues like colonialism, rising inflation, unemployment, corruption, and all of that. And it serves a way to remind those who are in power about the inconsistencies of the lives of those people on the streets. Because you may be shielded by your house in Banana Island. You may be shielded by Aso Rock. You may be shielded by the National House of Assembly, because, and this was one of the things I told, the current Lagos State speaker in the House when he came to the protest ground, and he said, I'm sorry for what happened, but then I understand. I said, sir, you do not understand. You do not understand the pain of the common man on the streets. You are guarded by police officers, by soldiers. How can you understand what extortion means? How can you understand what harassment means? How can you understand when a police officer points a gun at you and say that I will shoot you and nothing will happen? You don't understand. So for me, I think that protests do work, and we should never fail to protest. Like I said, the question that person has, it is part of our tools in a democracy to be able to make sure that our voices are heard.
All right. Let's take this call. Very interesting answer you've given. We have a listener on the line. Good evening to you. What's your name?
Good evening, Kofi. My name is Francis. Good evening, Renu.
Yeah. Hello, Francis. You can say it. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. I want to really thank God for your life, madam. Right as you were talking, what came to my mind was Shehu Kuti. And then suddenly you just mentioned his name and said the exact thing that was in my heart. So at this point, Kofi, please, I will appreciate you. Though he's a co-host in your studio there, we would like you to also invite Shehu Kuti to this your program.
All right.
Because he too has a lot to say. And he's not just a talker. I believe he's a doer. Just that he has not gotten the chance to prove it. But we need people like this, like Rinu, to be talking for us. Because as I speak with you, bro, protest in Nigeria is a dangerous business. It's a dangerous business. Whoever embarks on that project will end up losing his life. And number one, nothing will happen, Kofi. Number two, people will just move on with their lives, leaving your dead body behind. So I will really, really appreciate a situation where we find other means of protest, not going on the streets where these armed policemen, who we think we are fighting for, but sincerely, they don't need our help. They are okay the way they are. They are very convenient the way they are, collecting those things on the streets and taking whatever their masters give them. That is how they are trained. That is how their mind works. We can't change it. So we are talking about ourselves now. We want light. We want good roads. We want education for our children. We can't afford sending our kids overseas. But we should be able to send them to school here in Nigeria. ASU and government should help the common people achieve their dreams. By not going on strike and government meeting their own side of the bargain. What are they dragging for? When a senator takes home 36 million in a month, in a country that is borrowing money to pay salary, is it not funny that with all this, they still function as if we don't know what is going on, or they don't care how we think or feel? So I believe everything this woman has said tonight as true, but does that make it a fact before them? The answer is no. They go on with their business, doing it the way they want. This is where I want to draw the curtain for now. And listen more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you calling in. Please keep your calls coming through on 080-9234-5913, 080-9234-5913. Rinu, I can see you jotting down the point, so let's pick our next caller before I come to you. Hello, good evening to you. What's your name?
Hello. Good evening. This is Blessing from Banana Island.
Your name again, please.
Good evening. My name is Blessing.
Okay, Blessing, welcome. Welcome. Please go on.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Blessing. Please go on. Okay, Blessing, we've lost your call. Kindly call back. Rinu, so, I mean, you answered the question I asked, is the protests still have power in Nigeria, bearing in mind what happened last year during the EndSARS protest, so I think, yeah. The year before last, sorry. And you said, yes, indeed, they do, because the police still turn up fully armed and kitted in a show of force. But this last caller is saying the protest right now in Nigeria is a risky business, that, you can go and protest, there's no problem, but something will be done to you and nothing will happen. So he's saying, can't we look for other ways to protest other than hit the streets? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that I aligned with him and I said the same thing earlier, that sadly, repression does work, and it's sad before I answer the question, that the same people who protested, years ago, I think was it 2012 that our current president too was out on the streets protesting. Was it during Occupy Nigeria? And then he's president now, and there's suddenly a clampdown on protests. So like protests should not happen. The same tool that they used far back as 8 to 10 years ago and all of that. And yes, I agree with the caller that said that you die for nothing. I have always been of the view that people do die for Nigeria. There's some people, there's still some of us that believe that you should die for Nigeria. And then there is a majority that say, oh, don't die for Nigeria. If you die for nothing. Yeah. I do not think that people, and this is a personal opinion, people are free to disagree with me. I do not think that people do die for nothing in Nigeria. I think that it is the people or the cause that they have died for that have allowed them to die for nothing. It is you that subscribes to that cause that you've died for, that is still living, that you've allowed that cause to die simply because, let me not speak up. You've allowed them to die for nothing. You are the one that has refused to carry that cause onward. You are the one that has refused to propel that cause, because if they've died, they'd expect, if they've managed to sacrifice their life for a cause, they expect that people that are alive, that have seen that they've died, ask for justice for them. Not just ask for justice, continue to propagate that cause so that they do not just die for nothing. So it is we that have constantly allowed people to die for nothing. And it's interesting that we're talking about protests, because I heard that the police officers, the Nigerian police officers, want to embark on the protest because their salaries that the Nigerian government said was never increased. And it speaks to what the Nigerian government has currently turned into, saying one thing but doing the other. Even the EndSARS movement asked for the Nigerian police officers' salaries to be increased, but then that never happened. Many of the demands that the EndSARS protesters asked for, that led to some of the loss of lives of some of the protesters, were never really actualized. And the Nigerian police that we fought for during the movement, probably are still fighting for, were the ones that also pointed guns at us, asking us to get off the streets. They're still the ones that are being used on the show of force whenever people, want to protest. And when I saw the news, I asked, what for? Let us all continue to eat the bad governance breakfast, because whether we like it or not, breakfast, this breakfast of bad governance, we serve all of us around. Nobody will escape, whether you're part of a political party or not. We will all eat this breakfast of bad governance. But then back to the question, I do not think that going out on the street alone is a form of protest. I said earlier, your vote is also a form of protest. Making sure that you get your PVC and saying that no to bad leaders, no to bad governance is also another form of protest. People are saying politics is local, politics is local. Are you not the grassroots? Am I not the grassroots? Are we not the people that are going to vote on the elections day? And I agree with one ideology that says that if your vote does not count, politicians will not be trying to buy your vote. And there are new electoral laws, being enacted every day. I know people are disappointed in the process. They will snatch ballot box, they will do this, there's a lot of violence and all of that. But that's when you keep saying Nigeria we're tired of everything and let's just leave Nigeria the way it is. Who is going to reset it for us? We have to put in the power, which is why I agree with the first scholar that says that we still have to continue engaging. If we are falling, if you fall 7 times, you rise up again and again to make sure that you're continuing. It's not just one time. It's not the executive director of EIU will say it's not a marathon, or it's not a sprint, rather. It's a marathon. It's something that you have to continually do. And you're not going to get it the first time, because it's not just one weapon or one tool you have to participate in a democracy. You can vote, you can protest, you can try to recall a lawmaker. Some of you will say, oh, let's wait till 4 years and let them go out. No, you can try to recall your lawmaker if they're not doing what you want. Do you understand? There's so many ways. I mean, people in the Southeast are also embarking on the protest. And this is like a digress to section talks, but then if there was truly justice in Nigeria, and this is my opinion again, people are free to disagree with me, I do not think that there will be calls for secession, because there's so many states or countries that have multiple languages and are still together, but then because justice is either selective or found missing in many cases, that's why people are calling for secession. And people are protesting there as well by deciding to sit at home and not go to work, whether you think it's effective or not. There's so many ways, to protest in a democracy without even going on the street. If it's going out on the street that you can blockade the National House of Assembly, it's your right. That's what I told, I think there was a lawmaker when we were protesting. He says, oh, you people, you're constituting nuisance. Yeah. I said, are we not Lagosian? Is this not our State House of Assembly? I mean, this is our land. We're not in another man's land. land, and we have a right, to sit down where we want, protest where we want, do whatever we want peacefully, in an orderly manner. So you cannot ask us to leave this place, because even this State House of Assembly belongs to the people. We're in a democracy, and this is supposed to be for the people and by the people. So for me, I think that our protest can morph itself into so many ways. What matters most is that you are performing your civic duty as a citizen. You're not leaving it to others. And this is why I slightly disagree with last week. I say, oh, we need people like Rinu to speak for us. No, you also have a voice. While I'm using my own voice, I do not expect you to also to keep quiet and say, oh, Rinu, do it. I wasn't born with a placard. People like Kofi they were not born with a microphone or something. We all, it's a collective duty. And this is why I unsubscribe from the mentality of Nigerians needing a messiah. Oh, we need a strong man to come and save this country. Oh, we need a tough person to come and take over the leadership. We don't need a tough person, because you and I are the ones to participate in any democracy. It's a collective action. You don't need a messiah. You are the messiah. I am the messiah. By getting your PVC, I'm getting my PVC. Kofi is getting his PVC. Carrying your own placard, I'm carrying my own placard. I'm thumb printing. So many active ways of participating. That is how we change our country, or we move our country to the next level. Not leaving politics, or not leaving the affairs of the country to politicians, because as we have seen it, they're going to draw us backward. So it has to be citizens' participation. That's it for me. And this is why I'm going to say, office of the citizen is the highest office in the land. The highest office in the land is not that of the president or the governor. No, the highest office in the land is the office of the citizen.
Please hold a thought. Interesting, you said, we need to be active and need to be not just a passive citizen. But we have a caller on the line. Good evening to you. What's your name, please?
Hello, good evening. Kofi, it's me, Francis. I'm here.
All right, Francis. Rinu,
just quickly. I think Rinu spoke very well. But I want to say that in times like this, in difficult times like this, it is written, he said, a voice in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his path straight. What I'm trying to say is, in times like this, we don't have access to radio. We don't have access to a platform such as 91.3 to be called in as, they have called in to say our mind and speak our mind and answer questions. Someone must be out there talking for all of us. And that is where we appreciate people like Rinu and others who are interested in the Nigeria project and to make it right.
All right.
So the question is, what are the other means of protest? Apart from the vote and all that, what about the trade union? They used to be powerful. What about the student union? They used to be powerful. They are all citizens. And this is also part of the office of the citizen. So we are seeing that there are a lot of pressure groups in those days, like Lupeng, like quite a lot of them that when they down to government listens, because the economy comes to a standstill, they don't carry guns to shoot those kind of people. That's what we're saying, that those areas of our life must be revitalized.
Okay.
We need, yes, thank you very much, Kofi.
Interesting. Thank you for your time. I appreciate calling in. He's I'll dovetail that into one of the questions I was going to ask. And really, he's raised a fantastic point. I mean, I've said not a few times on radio, that when the young people came out, there wasn't only young people who protested in 2020. You had some older people as well, but largely young people. When the young people came out in 2020 to protest, I kept asking, where are all the human rights activists? Where are all the trade unions, including the TUC and NLC? And then this last petrol issue, of course, Nigerians are going through a lot of hell and still are. I was asking, where's the NLC in this? Now they're not striking. And after, I think they ought to do something. But your thoughts on that? These groups that should be speaking for the people, for the masses, even the what they call Parapo, the IYC, Ijo, Afenifere, what do you call it again? Arewa, Ohaneze, Indigo. All these people just left the youth on their own and have not said anything, if I'm not mistaken, about the massacre or for justice. Nothing.
So if I was to start, I mean, I think that the best person to speak on this particular question would be I think the former caller asked him about Seun Kuti. Seun Kuti, when you ask him a question regarding where are the others, he would answer this question perfectly. Anyway, you know where I ended last? Breakfast. The breakfast of bad governance is not going to be served to people on the street alone. Even the middle class, hustling for fuel. There's no lights. There's no lights in the house now. Some of the students that failed to protest them, they are currently at home because of ASU strike now. Is it Nopengo who called it then? They are currently battling with fuel scarcity now. NLC, probably their salary will not be paid next month or something like that. Which is why I say breakfast. So when you ask where are the other groups? Where is this person? Where is that person? It was a shock as well, that when young people were protesting against police brutality and harassment and bad governance, I mean, all the other groups sat down and started looking. And although young people said that this was our movement, and why? Because these groups have consistently failed Nigerians. If we recall, in September 2020, NLC was to embark on the protest. Maybe because of the unpaid wages or something like that, and they did not go on that protest. And they didn't know that even another protest was coming, because the Nigerian government thought that they successfully averted, the NLC protest. They didn't expect that. I mean, I don't think that nobody saw the EndSARS movement coming. And that's why it's important to delve into the fact that these groups have not consistently failed Nigerians. NLC will say they're going to protest today. When they go into a meeting with the Nigerian government, they will say, oh, they're not going to protest tomorrow. Many of these organizations have been turned into a tool by the Nigerian state to suppress the Nigerian citizenry voice, which is why at times, more than half of the time as well, Nigerian people have lost trust in these so-called institutions. I remember during the EndSARS movement as well, when NANT was supposed to come out in its full effect, they were still probably waiting. I don't know what they were waiting for. And now see what is happening. There's been, this ASU strike, we don't know when it's going to. I asked a question on my Twitter handle recently, that how many ASU strikes have you had to endure as a Nigerian student during your own time? And for me, it has been 3. One before the one that led into the Corona strike period. There was another one that went on for like 2 months. There was another one in 2017. Imagine, and I always say that we are being put at the lower or a subpart or a counterpart out there in the Western world, because the quality of education you are getting, it's nothing to write home about. You're not studying in the way you're supposed to study. You're being constantly battled with this and that. You have to go home. So many students are even dying, having to travel back and forth during their studies. Where is NANT's voice today? What has happened to their voice? What has happened to the NLC voice today? So one group is always waiting for another group to start. And that's why I go back to the collective action, right? Every Nigerian citizen have to understand that no group is coming to save us. It's everybody that has to involve themselves in this action. So if you're waiting for NLC, you're the wrong thing, because NLC only has their own interest, only has what I call the middle class interest. If their interests are not, it's not in what you're protesting about, then you don't think that it's their business. If you're not protesting for something about it, then they don't think it's their business. Even if it's about police brutality that affects majority of Nigerian students or Nigerian youth that are in universities, right? Even if it's not about petroleum, Nupeng doesn't think that they're affected. Let them do their protest while we sit down on their own. So there needs to be a collective spirit around Nigerian issues. All our organizations, workers' union, student union, blah, 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 need to realize that one issue is not isolated. It's not just about ASU strike. It's linked to bad governance. It's not just about petroleum scarcity. Who caused the petroleum that is currently causing frustration, or who imported the adulterated petroleum that is currently causing frustration for Nigerians? It's also linked to bad governance. Who is causing the unpaid wages of salaries in so many states? It's also linked to bad governance. So it's until we realize that our issues are interwoven, and we all have to come together, to make things work. It's not about your interest alone, it's about the interest of the Nigerian states. It's about changing the Nigerian states. That's when, we begin to get an headway. But when one group thinks, oh, it's not our business, it's not your business, but your son is getting affected by police brutality, your son is going to go on strike with us the next day. Let me just end with breakfast, bad governance. It's going to serve all of us round.
It's a stark reality, of the situation. Like you said, everything is linked to bad governance, and that's profound statement. Whether it's agitation in the southeast, insecurity in the north. Because what I realized, is that if something happens affects a northerner, the northern group, either Northern Youth Forum, Northern Elders Forum, or Arewa Consultative Forum, will stand up and shout, "Blue murder!" Justice. If something happens to a Niger Delta man, Pandev or IYC, like what happened to our late dear Sylvester Romani of blessed memory, the young boy who died here at Dowen College. No, not at Dowen College, but the former student of Dowen College. It was IYC, Joy Youth Congress, who were council, who were, shouting. Of course, Yoruba Youth didn't shout. Igbo Youth didn't shout. Arewa Youth didn't shout. You understand? It was just his people. So we only see this group standing up when it affects them. What you're saying is that bad governance affects everyone, not just one side of the country. I'd like to take you down memory lane to something that happened in 1989 in a very far part of the world. But for those who are listening, please feel free to call. I've stretched Rinu beyond the time I should have, but I think the fact that she's still here shows the passion she has for this subject matter of protest and justice in the country. And I told her, like, was it Franklin who called, who said that there comes a time. I've told her this one is natural. God has trusted this one on her. She can't run away. she was selfish. She disagreed with me, but I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and Rinu is a special person, a gift to this country, and I can't really see great things coming from her. So when they say you're a voice, please accept it. Okay, it's your cross to carry. But for those who are listening, please call the number 080-9234-5913. You can also send a WhatsApp message or voice note to that number. The power protests in a democracy, and of course, we're also looking at the EndSARS protests some years ago. Protests in Nigeria as a medium of expression have in recent times been discouraged by government to clamp down on, stop blocked by government. With the recent experience of the EndSARS movement, the protests in Nigeria still have power. Rinu Oduala, popularly called Savvy Rinu, is our guest on the program tonight. Rinu, let's go back to 1998 and to a protest called the Tiananmen Square protest. The Tiananmen Square protest. It happened in China, and this was also known as the June 4th incident, or the June 4th or Tiananmen Square massacre. It was a student-led protest, student-led demonstrations, held in Tiananmen Square, Beijing, in sort of pro-democracy protest. They wanted to see democracy in China. This is 1989, in the thick of communist rule in China. Young people said, you know what, enough is enough. We want to vote. We want self-determination. We're tired of being controlled by the state. Troops armed with assault rifles and accompanied by tanks, fired at demonstrators and those trying to block the military's advance into Tiananmen Square. The protest started on 15th of April and were forcibly suppressed on the 4th of June when the government declared martial law and sent the Chinese army, the People's Liberation Army, to occupy parts of central Beijing. Estimates of the death toll vary from several hundred to several thousands, with thousands more wounded. I remember that popular picture I used to see on CNN back in the day of one man standing in front of a tank, this tank that Russia is taking into Ukraine. And he's saying, you can't pass, you must kill me before you pass. Since that 1989, I don't think I've heard of any major protests in China. I can't remember any major protests in China. And I'm afraid, Rinu, that what happened at the Lekki toll gate may end up being Nigeria's own Tiananmen experience, where after that incident, people become cowed, cowed and afraid to come out and say PIM again. What do you think?
I think it's a tough one. Especially when you bring into the context of the Tiananmen Square, and we are even going back to the Tiananmen Square. Every student protest in Nigeria, almost every student protest in Nigeria, have always been met by violence. When you look from 1978 to 1999, when students used to protest really, really almost every time, especially the OAU people, that are listening. I think that they were the bedrock of student protests in Nigeria. They were a perpetual source of dissent in Nigeria. And I think then they were called nuns or something like that. They were always getting closed because of protests. Somebody is always getting killed. Nigerian protesters. I was talking about we're talking about the Lagos State panel. Even the council that represented Lagos State on the panel, saying Nikoko, was one of the people that led the student protests back then in his own days, where a lot of students were shot. Even during his own days. It is surprising to now see him being one of those that now try to suppress citizen voices and try to deny the fact that the Nigerian government, shot at protesters, when he himself has been a witness of the violence of the state's violence, or the violence called the Nigerian state. Anyway, I think that when you look at the memorial of the EndSARS protest that happened last year and all the incidents around it, I think that the Nigerian state tried to break the spirit of the Nigerian young people. Because for a very long time, we've been accused of being keypad warriors. So these people, they cannot do it. Young Nigerians, and to type on, they cannot fight on internet. That's all they can do. They can't start a revolution. They can't do anything. And I think that all those notions were that strongly. However, I think that one of our mistakes was not some of our mistakes was not being part of the military era regime, where there was a lot of repression then, and not taking into. I think that I started with the fact that I didn't realize that my state will be able to come at me with so much force. It's like you're living in a cocoon and you're just like, well, we're going to protest. And I mean, these people, they don't have a choice than to listen to us. And definitely all of us are going to go back home and things are going to get better. I think that was the spirit. Protest, make sure that your voice is being heard. And Nigerian state is finally going to listen because they have no choice. We don't know that. We didn't think of the fact that, yes, they had a choice to repress us. They have a choice to shoot at us. They have a choice to kill so many people in the middle of one of the richest cities in Nigeria, or the economic hub of Nigeria, or something like that, and nothing would happen because they would violently try to repress us. That's still trying to repress us. So I think that Nigerian states almost broke the spirit of the Nigerian people, because we invested so much in the protest. We invested so much in the movement. It's like a part of us were invested, because you could see that the spirit of unity wasn't just even in Nigeria. As people were protesting in Nigeria, there were Nigerians that were protesting in London, in Paris, in Canada, in Finland. There were even Nigerians that were protesting in other countries in Africa. It was unlike never seen, because we had a link and we trusted that something finally was going to happen, right? And what did we get into it? Bullets and blood. So our spirits were almost broken. There is a sort of general wave of trauma that we haven't managed to recover from, because we didn't we did think that our state was going to come at us with that much force, not to the extent of killing so many people who were just doing what? Protesting against police brutality and bad governance, who just wanted the country, to get better and nothing else. I mean, about 98% of the people that participated, young people that participated in that protest, I dare say, if I'm even saying a wrong figure, that they don't even have any political affiliations at all. What they just wanted was a better country, not just for ourselves, for the generation coming after us. However, I do not think that spirit has been broken, because we have coconut heads. We know the year word. Even if the fight has largely moved off TV screens or the international media, it doesn't mean that the movement has stopped. If you type EndSARS on your phone today, you see at least 5 people replying you, because that spirit or that vision we saw that Nigerians can be better if only we had good people in place moving this country forward. We've not lost vision of that. I mean, during the EndSARS protests, I could go on and on about how we managed to enact a newfound sense of patriotism that you've never seen before. There was transparency and accountability, right? That has never been seen in Nigeria before. We have been yes. When I talk about unity, I mentioned the fact that people all across Nigeria were protesting. Even people that you think were not protesting, people were protesting in the north as well. People were protesting in Kano. People were protesting in Katsina. People were protesting in some other part of the northern states of the country. Yes, so Nigerians, especially young people across all social standing, it's not about the fact that you are uneducated, I'm educated. No, it's not about the fact that you live in Banana Island and I live in Songo or something. No, we all use our voices and craft and platforms, celebrities, influencers, to amplify the atrocity and call for an end to police brutality. While Kofi could not go off studio, he was also on studio shouting EndSARS. And we used our united, front to not put any leader there, because we've always been failed by leaders, right? And he's also showed that
I was actually on the road there, making sure that the contribution we made in terms of Naira and Kobo was utilized. And it's a long story, but in Port Harcourt, Rinu, exactly. Let me not go into this. But this is it's nostalgic, and it brings tears to my eyes, because in Port Harcourt, you could see those who can smoke one sack of Igbo standing alongside those who can't even drink one drop of beer, and they were holding hands. And you could see an so-called Agbero and somebody who is so gentle, who you think will be the victim of attack of an Agbero, were holding hands. And in Port Harcourt, for the first time, a gathering like that, not a single phone got missing. It was only one phone, because we put things together. It was in one phone that got missing. And they actually brought it to us in the van and said, please, someone dropped their phone.
And this is not to interrupt you. This is not to interrupt you, but then the largely uneducated people that we've always ignored were the ones forming security guards and saying, don't worry, if they bring you hoodlums, we're going to protect you guys, we're going to be a shield and all of that. And for the phones part, this is important to mention that phones got snatched in Lagos, when we had this small doctor that came to the ground. But what was amazing was small doctor went to every person he knew and collected the phones back.
Wow.
And brought it back to the owner. I mean, those people that were trying to, cause chaos and all of that. He made sure he collected every single one of those phones and brought them back. And I think that I didn't know what was happening in Port Harcourt, but it's such a replica of what was happening in Lagos. And when we talk about good governance, during the protest, there was top-notch coordination. You were on the streets trying to make sure that every kobo was being spent. Volunteer groups, feminist coalition, EndSARS, legal aid, they were making sure that protesters were being released. The ones that were being framed up, they were making sure they were being released. People set up helplines, medical emergencies. There were ambulances all over protest grounds. There was food, mental health emergencies. There was private security. Out of nowhere in just barely 5 to 10 days. And this is why I said the Nigerian government is afraid, because if young people can manage to do this within 10 days, then why is it that for the past 60 something years, we've not managed to have good governance in the country, a working health system? These were recipes of good governance and a working nation, which the EndSARS movement demonstrated in that. When you talk about transparency and accountability, people were providing daily financial updates, respect for the rule of law, even though protesters were being brutalized, were being arrested, were being killed. We never took laws into our own hands, even though lives were being lost across the country.
Yeah.
Even where hoodlums were attacking protesters, you give them back to the police, you hand them over to the police, but later the police would release them. There was no evidence, or there is still no evidence to show that peaceful protesters were involved in the alleged jailbreaks and riots that the Nigerian government has attributed to the movement.
Absolutely.
But then there is evidence of the Nigerian government's culpability in human rights violation and clamping down on protesting youth. You almost shed a tear there. I mean, when we talk about human empathy, the EndSARS protesters displayed deep human empathy. The ones that could donate their 500 naira, their 100 naira, sharing data, online protesters, this and that.
Who were just bringing
everybody
food.
became their brother's
People
keeper.
were just bringing food. Someone will come with a car full of food and just start sharing. Someone will come with a car full of bottled water and just start sharing, and then you'll be like, what's going on here? I've never seen.
And then nobody was profiled because of their physical appearance. There was no, because you are looking good, then take bottled water. Because you are looking haggard, then you're not having. No, everybody got the same thing. Yeah. So we were the representation of the popular adage of be the change you see. We were the change that we wanted to see in Nigeria, which is why I returned to the fact that the Nigerian government was afraid, and that spirit cannot disappear because it's still there. You can try to traumatize these people by shooting at their fellow young ones that they were protesting on the street together and trying to make a propaganda, a huge propaganda. The Nigerian government invested in huge propaganda against the EndSARS movement. However, that movement or that spirit cannot be broken irrespective of that, because it took courage and integrity for us to stand our ground. Like I always say, it has brought us to realize that leaders of tomorrow, you people are going to be leaders of tomorrow. Has always been a farce. Why not be a leader today? Because even the leaders that have been there yesterday, they still want to be leaders tomorrow. People that have been in the leadership position for the past 20, 40 years, they still want to be leaders tomorrow. When will the children of today be the leaders of tomorrow that we've always been clamoring about? So what?
Years. but
Rinu, so one new takeaway for that, for the Tiananmen Square question is that a new social contract has been written. And we are starting to create a new understanding about how leaders, and public servants should relate to citizens. We're also starting to reinvent governance in Nigeria. We're bringing about a new culture of asserting rights among the citizens. So it's not about keeping quiet anymore, because the politicians and leaders, they are waking up to a new, politically new conscious society. It's not going to be we're not going to create magic at once. But then you can never break the spirit of Sorosuke, and that's our hashtag.
Okay, interesting. I'll come back to you in a jiffy. Very interesting answer you give to that. I have a caller on the line, and Mr. Caller or Madam Caller, I encourage you to please turn off your radio set. Otherwise, we'll have to let you go as soon as. Have you turned off your radio set, please?
Yes, I've done that.
Okay, thank you. Your name and where are you calling from?
My name is still Francis.
All right.
And I'm still here with Rinu and you. Kofi Bartels.
All right, thank you for your time. Please go on.
Yeah, I want to say once again, Sorosuke, because it's very important that we keep speaking up, so that they will know that at least there is a voice in the wilderness, preparing the way of the Lord, making his path straight. You see, as Rinu was speaking, I was having flashbacks. I remembered the Ogoni 9 that died. Today, Ogoni land is still a mess. The oil companies ravaged that community, that society. Left them with nothing. They are fishermen. They love fishing. They love their fishing. But till now, they've not cleaned it up. That is the futility of all the efforts we have been making. How long, sir, military was in power? They made us believe that military was bad. And evidently, there were traces of wickedness and lack of conscience. Nigerians arose with them. Among those who ran away from Nigeria then was the Jagaban himself, because he was wanted by the military. We supported all the efforts of the pro-democrats. Nigerians went to the street. Nigerians put on the pressure. And military said, okay, fine.
Nigerians even die.
I'm telling you. Then they now come to power. Look at what they are doing to us. Look at what they are doing to us. I will say to them, it's a big shame what they are doing to us. It's a very big shame. In fact, they have let us down big time. And they should remember that if not for us, they will not be in power. If not for us, military will still be ruling this country. If not for us, a lot of them will be on exile, running for their lives today. It's a big, big shame.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate you calling in. You know that you said it all, Francis. Thank you for your time, Rinu. So back to the question I asked, and you were answering it, and you gave a very, very interesting answer to us. But I still like to, because we are out of time, I'd like to allow you go rest. But you know, I still want to say, you know, whilst you're saying that the voice is still there, we have a new social contract. The fact is that since the 20th of October 2020. No major protests held in this country, you know, and even the anniversary, they cowed people again, saying you can't even stop here, just be in a car and drive past. In Lagos State, no major anti-government protest has held. People have been cowed, Rinu. People are scared. Like the caller said earlier, he said, you know, it's a risky business. People have run into their shells. Nobody wants to die.
Oh, I haven't got the question, but then I got the question. I don't think that people are scared. I said that before. I don't think that people are scared. I just think that people do not want to die for nothing. Because if they die for whatever cause that we're fighting for now, would you speak for them? Would you still stay on the street for them? Would you still support that very cause, or everybody would jackpot to their own house and say, I don't want to die for Nigeria? It has to be, the start has to be the fact that everybody has to believe that we all can die for the country. You know, it's not, oh, you people, there's some set of people that are supposed to die for the country. No. For a country, this is why I would slightly agree with the first speaker, that for a country to stand on its own feet, I mean, people have to be ready to drop their sweat and blood to be able to make sure that the country works. So it's not when some people die that some of us say, oh, well, somebody don't die, make all of us say, go back to our house because I don't want to die. And this will come back to, this is why I'll come back to where Fela said something, that my people are afraid of dying, they're afraid of living, they're afraid of everything. So it's
or even the air they breathe.
Exactly. So it's them. Fela, many of the things that Fela said were right in his own time, and are still, you know, right in this time as well. And I had somebody on my space where I was Twitter space, and the person said that Nigerians today, if you put Nigeria inside it, we go just come out our shirts, start to fun ourselves. We know come out tonight. It's like well, we slowly adapted to the realities on ground. So it's not as if people are are afraid. People just don't want to die for nothing. If people die, would you speak for them? Would you stand for them? Would the celebrities, would the influencers, would they use their platforms to talk? Or everybody's just going to keep quiet and say, we're waiting for timing. I was having a conversation with somebody this last week, and person said, oh, it's only they said something about how people are using their platforms to call for the collection of PVC in the country and how people should vote. I said, I have been using my platform. So what about other people? I said, I don't know why they are not speaking up. Maybe they are waiting for somebody to come and pay them to say, get your PVC. And person said, oh, he messaged one person, and person said, it's his or our own right to post whatever they want to post on their page. And if anybody pays me, then I'm going to post whatever I want them to post. And I said, that mentality is wrong. It's your civil duty to make sure that you use your platform to encourage people to choose the right choices. You may not say, oh, this is the person you should vote for, but encourage them to make the right choices. Encourage them to participate in the democratic process. Encourage them to do this. And this is pointing back to the question when you say, oh, there's no protest that has happened. And I answered the question when we talked about why we had the other people, because somebody is waiting for somewhere, somebody is waiting for someone to carry a placard. And if they carry a placard, the major organizations in the country will say it's not our business. That's not our focus. So let us just keep quiet. It still boils down to the fact that some people are thinking that the role of activism is for Rinu or Kofi Bartels, or we are not activists. Or it still boils down to the fact that, oh, me, I'm not interested in politics. I don't want to do. You're not interested in politics, but you're using the roads in the country. You're not interested in politics, but you're using the light of the country. You're still a citizen of that country, you're not interested in politics. It still boils down to the fact that repression may work, but everyone has to realize that if one method is being repressed, then it's up to everybody to now say that must not continue. If 100,000 people come out in Lagos today and say we want to protest, I mean, how many police officers do we even have in Lagos?
What if 1 million boys show up? 1 million boys.
I don't know them.
I don't think they're up to 1 million.
I don't think they're up to 1 million.
What if all the Agbero in Lagos show up and say, okay, we'll face you?
Okay, let's now come to the example of police officers who want to protest now. So who is going to ask police officers to go and stop police officers from protesting? I mean, it's not rocket science. But then the fact that some of us still think that it's up to some people to protest. That's what the issue lies in. You can only repress a few people. If when people were shot and killed at the Lekki toll gate, what if Lagosians decided that 1 million of us are going to come out on the streets to protest this killing, but everybody kept quiet? I'm going to not kill them, or maybe say like
I'm talking about.
Maybe say I sit down for my house, and I don't go shoot you. That's part of the problem. We all have to realize that it's a collective effort. It's not just for one person. Repression may work, but then that repression only works when people are afraid. When you keep constantly coming out, constantly engaging in that process, constantly protesting, you will get tired at one point and say, okay, what can we do for you people? That was what happened during the EndSARS movement. When it was just 43 people in front of the State House of Assembly, police officers tried to dislodge them. When they refused to leave, even if you are going to kill us, hundreds of thousands came out the next day to say, we are also going to stand on the streets. So they only pick, let's use the example of ballot box snatching. But politicians only snatch ballot box where they know they can rig. You can't go to all the 774 local governments to snatch ballot boxes. It's a lie. Because when citizens come out en masse to vote, how many ballot boxes? Where do you want to snatch ballot boxes when there are 100,000 people waiting to vote, or there are 50,000 people, or there are 20,000 people waiting to vote in one ward local government to protect their vote? We all have to realize that protecting the sanctity of this nation is not just up to some people, because definitely they will face repression. Everybody has to be involved. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right, interesting. So basically you're saying it shouldn't be left to just a few people. Everyone needs to be involved. Some people will tell you that the same people who you're protesting for are the ones who will not even defend you or protect you or fight for you, who abandon you in the middle and you be on your own. I'm sure people have told you that before. May have heard it many times. People have to also come out. You've raised a very important point. Say you need consistency. I think is what you're saying, and it reminds me of is it the yellow umbrella protest? Is that what it's called in Hong Kong, where they refused to go away? The Chinese were sent in. They refused to go away. In Hong Kong, the young people kept trying different methods. Even in this particular Ukraine, when Yanukovych was there and he was romancing with Russia, and of course they went on the streets and they refused to go away. The police were released on them. They refused to go away. People died, but they ended up changing things in Ukraine for the better. So you're saying we hear gunshots and we all run away, and the people who may be victims are left to be on their own, whilst the others who can on the outside don't do anything about it. So I just hope that we don't have a Tiananmen moment, because like you said, there's trauma, and people are still trying to recover from what happened in 2020. But ahead of the 2023 general elections, to ensure political change in the country, very quickly, because we're out of time, do you foresee more protests? Because there are things that are happening in the country right now, and in some countries, just 1/10 of it, and there'll be protests. You know what I'm saying? 1/10, there'll be protests. But like you said, if you put a Nigerian in a hot place, you take off his shares and start fighting himself. Ahead of the 2023 elections, what can we do to salvage Nigeria? Because Nigeria is on the brink and needs salvaging.
Well, I think that I've also mentioned many of these solutions to start with. One of the points, or one of the steps that Nigerians, or one of the things that Nigerians need to remind themselves of now is that it's not up to one person. One person is not going to come and save you. United Nations is not going to come and save you. I'm sorry to say this on radio because some young people thought that United Nations was going to come and save us during the EndSARS protest. And I'm going to come and save you. No country is going to come and save you. Take for the example, I think the example of Ukraine currently, with Russia, where they are fighting. I mean, I don't think that any country has intervened to say, well, we're going to go and fight with them currently. The world can actually, when we say, oh, the world is watching, yes, sometimes or most of the time, what the world can just do is to watch. It's the citizens of the country that needs to realize that it's up to us to take the mantle. Don't send them to my space and say that if Nigeria goes belly up today, many of the Western countries around us will be in trouble. I mean, it's going belly up, but then it's not fully up. They will be in trouble. So, and somebody said one thing particularly to me, I don't think that it's fair to say, but then I still think that it matters when you say that those people that went, to study because of one thing or the other in Ukraine, especially Nigerians, they are back in their country. Even Nigerians some of them are back home right now. If everybody is going to take a step to say, well, I'm not interested in make a japa, something may happen that may return you back to where you're japping from. Yeah. So it's up to us to actually build this nation the way we want to. And that's also having to involve yourself in democracy. Sorry I'm saying this, I'm going religious, but then I heard that there are some Christians that do not participate in elections. They don't vote. And this is why I come in by saying you are a Christian, but as a citizen of Nigeria, despite the way everything has gone wrong, and you say you won't vote. There's some Muslims as well that say, oh, me, I'm not going to vote. Why won't you vote? And this is why one of the biggest protests, or one of the biggest protest tools, or however you want to protest without even endangering yourself, is to vote. The people that have caused pain and frustration, inflation, a lot of things, made your children to go out of school, you are still going to open your eyes and let them be voted in again. You're doing yourself a disservice because, like I said like 10 times today, we will not chop the breakfast of bad governance. You're doing yourself a disservice.
Okay, so for
me, I think that one of the ways we can salvage this country is to make sure we get our PVCs and vote, not just get your PVC and put it in your wallet.
Okay.
Vote.
I'd like to end on this note. Talking about voting, as a form of protest against bad governance. One of the flaws or the downsides or the things about the EndSARS movement that did not work to the advantage of the EndSARS, or that was missing to me, was organization. If there was, the people involved in the protests had the skills. I can imagine that you've learned a number of things between then and now that would enable you, if you had the opportunity to do some things differently, you add some upgrade to the way you did things. One of the things I hope that all those involved have learned is how to organize, to come together, to form strategic alliances to keep something going. I don't know if you agree with me.
When you say organizing in what sense? Because I think that the EndSARS movement demonstrated the highest form of organization you can ever imagine.
Yeah,
but then, organizing in what form?
So some things were still missing. For instance, even the different protests around the country, there was not a common, platform. Even within some states, you had different protests that they were not communicating, but also having a plan to say, okay, A, B, C, this is the next step. At the point, there was no next step. You understand? At the point, there was no end game. There was no plan to keep it going. Now, what I'm saying is, for the
when you say there was no major platform to protest, I mean, platforms that were used to communicate demand.
No. I said plan. So
there was a plan. I mean, wasn't there the 5-for-5 demands that were put across to the government?
Rinu, we can go on and on. That was not even though
as the government acceded to the 5-for-5 demand. They started working on some, but then they accede to the first. Let's talk about the first demand on the EndSARS 5-for-5 demand, which is the release of all arrested protesters.
Yeah.
Have those protesters been released?
So Rinu,
when you talk about end game. When you talk about end game, we have some communication. We have for acceding to demands. They disbanded SARS on paper and changed it to another name, saying it's what? Was that the demand that the EndSARS protesters?
I know all that.
Hold on. When you say there was no end game, who violently disrupted the EndSARS movement with bullets?
Okay. So this is what I mean. What I mean is that there could have been, and I realized that at the end of the day we learn every day. I'm not saying that things were not done right. I'm not saying that I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that one of the things that could have helped would have been better organization in terms of putting the protest,
better organization
in terms of galvanizing and having a movement that is properly linked and structured, starting from something that was organic to now something that is structured. You understand?
This is where you should come into consideration. That that movement was the highest form of organic structure you could have. Where was the space for this organic movement to become highly structured? With the Nigerian soldiers shooting at young protesters all over the place. That's what. But then what I think you're saying is organization in terms of becoming a pressure group. I think that the EndSARS movement is a pressure group. And if you're talking in terms of a political movement, I still insist that the EndSARS movement did not start out to be a political movement. Our movement was to end bad governance and police brutality in the country. That's what is still currently. If we're going to serve as a pressure group, we can talk about that. I don't think that was one of the objectives that the EndSARS movement set out to do.
Even till now, go back to the DMs, go back to what I told you on Twitter. Even till now, EndSARS is still not organized till now, because because
they were short hats.
No,
by the Nigerian government.
yes. So it's like a group of people who maybe coming out maybe to help or to rescue their town, and then they are shot at and run into the bush, and they are scattered, so they don't know who is where. You understand? Right now, the different, everybody just scattered. You understand? I don't know whether it's EndSARS was much more about
Everyone,
yeah.
you think,
So
you think,
let me just say this.
you
The EndSARS was about much more than Lagos. In fact, more people died in River State. Though those guys are were not necessarily EndSARS protesters, but some things happened after the protests. After, and people were affected. More people died in River State. We had protests all over the country. I'm saying that all the protests, not just Lagos, the whole entire movement lacked organizational skills, and that was a problem.
I disagree with.
Yeah, I know you're entitled to disagree.
And I think
One of the evidence was in not having a far-reaching, okay, in not having figureheads that were known to come out and put their faces out there. That in case government wants to arrest.
Do you know
I mean, I give you credit. I give you credit, Rinu. I give you credit. I'm not saying you didn't do. I give you credit, and I'm nowhere trying to down what you guys did. Okay.
The question is, do you know figurehead? I don't call them figureheads. I call them frontliners, because the EndSARS movement never planned to have leaders in the first place. So do you know frontliners or not? Do you know about DJ Switch or not?
Mm-hmm. So this is a DJ Switch.
Are you not a frontliner yourself?
Yes.
Because you're on the street.
So for instance,
so when we going back and forth.
No. So what?
My main point is, do we expect the EndSARS movement to now have a building and say this is our headquarters?
No.
You are forgetting. This is. I'm not disagreeing with you on some part. The only part I disagree with you is when you say lack organization. I think that movement is the highest form of organization. Any organic movement that emerged in days.
What is happening today?
Because the EndSARS
movement, for all of everyone.
Say, we are planning this. Some people came out and said wanted to protest against police brutality. Some people in Benin State said want to come out to protest against police brutality, and it was organic. It wasn't something that was sat down somewhere and planned and say this is how we want to go. So when we say we want them to do this, we're not bringing into cognizance the fact that these people were heavily repressed. My bank account was seized. My bank account was frozen, rather. Mm-hmm. My passport was seized. Mm-hmm. I was prevented from leaving the country. Mm-hmm. I've been placed on a no-fly list of not flying out of the country. Not just me, but then several other people as well, whose their passports were seized, their bank accounts were frozen.
Welcome to the club.
But failing to take into cognizance the fact that protesters, like we started from the conversation, are still in prison, by the way. Many people are still being hounded by DSS because they participated in EndSARS movements. Yeah. There's still cyber trolls all around. The Nigerian government invested in every propaganda to prevent any form of EndSARS information from coming out. Even media stations were sanctioned, were being handed papers and all of that to prevent them from talking about the EndSARS movement. So when we say, these people should have been more organized, what form of organization do you expect an organic movement to have more than the EndSARS?
I say this as someone who is part of, I was a victim, managed to escape in my life. I have the pain of police brutality just on my left knee. That's the only one remaining. It may be with me for life, and they were regretting that they didn't kill me. And one of the reasons that my beatings increased in SARS detention then, I think it was 2019, was because they found out who I was when they picked me in. They had no plan to pick me. It was just an accident. I saw them beating someone, and I tried to do something about it. And when they found out I was, you're the guy who's been talking about SARS on radio, they increased the beating. So I say these things with great admiration for what all of you in Lagos did and around the country. But I also say, and I still, I mean, for instance, now for the fact that we don't have some sort of structure, because some things start organic, they're not meant to remain organic. They're meant to metamorphose into something powerful, something organized, something structured, and something deliberate, and that is how the revolution started. That's how countries are changed. That's how movements are supposed to graduate You understand? And I mean, I didn't know these things, but I just sat back and thought about it. Because I mean, since then and now, what's communication been? What is the organization been? What has the structure been? If we don't structure and take that organic thing to now build something of it, and nothing will come out of it. And I was asking this question in relation to 2023. And I feel that if people, you know, especially those middle class, and it's very, very great to mention the middle class, because that is where the key lies. And that's a fantastic point you made. I feel that if we just sit down and just walk up to a polling station with a PVC to vote on voting day, we've actually, before we even went there, we've lost. I feel that the work for those who have an idea of what to do, we talk about middle class, you know, be it lower middle class, middle class, upper middle class, it actually starts before the voting day. And if you wait till the voting day to go and vote, don't even try to vote at all, because you've already lost. Because those who can't think for themselves are going to go and register, but they'll stay at home with their PVC, and after elections use it for bank transactions, you know, because they're afraid to go and vote. So the work starts way before the election. So I am saying that all the people who are passionate about Nigeria, yourself, other persons out there, you know, do you see a need to form, so to organize, to come together, to form a widespread coalition, you know, of different ideas, of people who are energized? You have the energy, you have the ideas, you know, and there are other people like you out there, you know, who God has just placed in a time like this, you know. And if you guys don't collaborate, nothing will happen. We will now have different parties, everybody going their way again, like we had in 2019. I mean, do you think that's something that is necessary to be done? That collaboration.
So I understand you when you say that. When you now see how is it possible, or how are the frontliners of the movement, or people that are supporters of the movement, harnessing the energy of the EndSARS movement, or helping to channel it towards 2023. I can say for a fact, that many frontliners are doing their possible best. They may not be out on the streets like the EndSARS movement. Maybe that's what many are expecting, that we come out to protest again, or we come out en masse on the street again, or something like that. I mean, that would take additional efforts, I mean, and that's not like excluded. That's not excluded, from whatever plans are going on. But then I can tell you for free that many frontliners, many organizations that are supporters of the EndSARS movement are actually doing their very best towards the 2023 elections. I mean, I organize spaces, talk to people, not less than 80,000 listeners every week to say,
yeah, you're doing great.
Yes,
about that.
To say, get your PVC, host political aspirants, regardless of whatever party you are. Let's listen to these people. What sort of candidates are we even putting into our offices? People that we don't talk to, we just see them on the party list and say, let's vote for them. What's in their brain to offer? What do they have to offer Nigerians? So that's one of the things I do. There are other frontliners as well. I don't want to start mentioning them. They're also doing several things on their own, organizing groups, making sure that people are getting PVC. People are organizing a lot of PVC registration processes, kind of just sitting down. I know of Abeno, PVC Waka. They're doing a lot of PVC registration for Christians in churches. So every Sunday, Sunday they are in churches in Lagos, registering people that don't have their PVC.
When are all these people going to come together?
What makes you think they are not together? Because you don't see them.
By the way, you're doing great with the spaces, and I want to encourage anyone out there. You maybe before you go, give details, but you're doing fantastic. I think that's the most popular space in Nigeria as we speak.
Thank you. So my question, you've not answered my question. What makes you think they are not together?
I don't know. So you tell me. That's why let me hear it from you.
You think they are not together, but then I just mentioned several. Said there are people doing in Ibadan, there are people doing in River States doing PVC registration processes. The problem is that the Nigerian state does not want to see these people together. But irrespective of that, you cannot shut down the voice of Sorosoke. So that's what we're just doing. All possible best that we can do. So many activists have had to leave the country. not excluding DJ Switch as well. So she can only do her best from where she is, using our online platforms, talking to lobbyists, pressure leaders, pressure groups, rather, policymakers towards the 2023 elections. I can do my part. Everybody is doing their part in conjunction. If you're not seeing everybody together at one meeting table and discussing, doesn't mean that people are not doing their part. But then, like I said from the start, it's not up to Kofi alone to use his voice as an OAP, to tell you to get your PVC. It has to be everybody. You in your house, how many of your neighbors do you know have their PVC? Have you even talked to them at all? It's not up to some people somewhere. It has to be a collective effort. The frontliners, maybe like Rinu or something, we're not the only ones that were out on the streets. Kofi Bartels was out on the street as well. Other Nigerians you don't know were out on the street as well. That was how the EndSARS movement became a possibility, right? So if we're saying let the work be left to some people, the work would not get done at all. It has to be you, everyone doing the work necessary.
Interesting. You've said a lot of things that we should totally, scribble on a marble and keep it for posterity, so that people can always read them. I must say, and I'll say it again, that for you, what you find yourself in is bigger than what you might think, and you don't have a choice. It's been thrust on you. You're really, really talented and endowed with something that Nigeria needs, and I'm sure there are a few other people out there young, but have this intelligence and this passion that you can feel from a distance. So keep it up, and keep the passion up. And when they come to try and entice you, I know there's a fire that will burn in your heart for you to say no, and at the right time your reward will come.
What makes you think there are no enticements already?
No, I that's why I said of course we know that it'll always be there, but at the right time the reward will come. At the right time the reward will come. And just appreciation to you and to all those who risked their life 2020 to say people should not be treated like animals, and hopefully we would see ourselves again soon. I'm talking about everybody celebrating better Nigeria. Rinu, thank you very much for your time. For your Twitter spaces, how can people participate? When does it hold?
Yeah, if you're on Twitter, it holds every Saturday, 7 p.m. West African time. We do a lot of, civil society organization efforts, amplify whatever people are doing in irrespective states, whether it's PVC registration, whether it's awareness and all of that. We also host political aspirants on the space. So if you're a political candidate, you are running for elections, you can come on the space, to talk to many young Nigerians because they are the largest subscribers to that space. We get to ask you questions, so don't think that it's not a campaign platform for you. We just want to know you. We want to know what you have to offer the Nigerian citizenry, and we want to know if we should be voting for you or not. I mean, it's an engagement platform. It's really for people that do not get to see politicians or hear politicians or speak politicians face to face to ask the needed questions regarding their constituency. So we've posted senators, aspirants to Senate seats, House of Reps, councillors, presidential candidates. So join the spaces and bring your questions along. That's all that is required.
Fantastic. I saw online one call blinking through, but I think we lost that. We'll have you sometime again soon, probably on another program where you come into the studio and be our guest. Thank you very much for your time. You've given us 30 minutes of your time, but I know that's because you're passionate about this, this cause. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. And remember, the highest office in the land is the office of the citizen. Nigerians should activate the office of the citizen today. It's not up to anybody, it's up to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
We are Lagos Talks 91.3. Let's talk.